for you in just a moment. But what we're covering in this session is entitled The Two Emotions from chapter 13.5. And I want to give a little background of the section that came before this, as well as the section that comes immediately after this, because together they form like a triad. You can group them together and see them as a larger message. So hello and welcome to Miracles on High Plains. My name is Janaka, and our reader for this session is Julie. Before we get into the reading, I had shared pieces of this diagram on our previous session. And for those of you who've seen it the first time, you have to understand, it's just a diagram, okay? So we're trying to explain a concept with pictures. In the ego state, the past is very big, really central to the ego's interpretation, and it persists in believing that the future will repeat the errors of the past. And in so doing, it kind of jumps over and makes the present into nothing important. The ego is not about the present at all. Whereas in the Holy Spirit's perspective, the meanings all change, as we know, and the present moment becomes where all life and happiness exist. All the miracle principles occur in the present. That's where the holy instants, the holy encounters all happen. And the past and the future take on little meaning. They mean nothing to the Holy Spirit, but even to our human minds that are practicing in this state, the past and future become not a matter of concern. Everything is invested into the present. And so that's a diagram. But the question you might ask is, well, then, if the ego state is all about focused on the past, then how do we get from that state to this other state called the holy present? And the answer is we need a bridge. And the section that we're reading about today is the bridge. So previous session was about this diagram, explaining this diagram. And the future session we'll see in just a moment. So in words, that means in 13.4, we covered how the ego uses time to imprison us and how the Holy Spirit uses time to release us from the prison of ego thinking. In this session, the two emotions, we're going to look at what is really within your responsibility, your area of control, which is the cause and effect of the content of your consciousness. What you choose as your guide determines what you perceive. And we'll be looking at that through something very easy to detect, your emotions, whether they be of fear or of love. And as you probably know already, fear perpetuates a view of time as a prison, whereas love releases us into a freedom of the timeless present, the timeless now. And so the choice, this is where you come in, the choice to use love as your guide prepares you to cross this bridge from ego perception of time to Holy Spirit's reference point of the holy present. And so in the session following this next weekend, I'm referring to, we'll go over finding the present and dive deeper into how we can access that holy present as a practice, on a regular basis. So, with that, I know there might be questions. This was just meant to be a broad view. We'll get into the reading. Julie, whenever you're ready.
I have said you have but two emotions, love and fear. One is changeless, but continually exchanged, being offered by the eternal to the eternal. In this exchange, it is extended, for it increases as it is given. The other has many forms, for the content of individual illusions differs greatly. Yet they have one thing in common: they are all insane. They are made of sights that are not seen and sounds that are not heard. They make up a private world that cannot be shared, for they are meaningful only to their maker, and so they have no meaning at all. In this world, their maker moves alone, for only he perceives them.
So, he's contrasting the two emotions of love and fear and pointing to the attributes that each has, which are completely opposite from the other. With love is a state, it's a divine state. We're talking about perfect, eternal, unconditional, divine love. That is a changeless state. It's the nature of the creator and of the creation. And so it is embedded as a central attribute of reality, which remains constant and changes not. It can't be improved upon, but it can be shared by all of creation. It's something we can join together in and unite with each other around this experience of divine love. In contrast, fear appears in many different forms, for you can create your own fear all by yourself based on your unique set of circumstances. And these fears make up a private world, which, and you think about this, it's not hard to perceive. It's a private nightmare that only you really know about. Nobody else shares in it completely. Not a good thing. And so that private nightmare has meaning only to one person, to the one who made them. And therefore, since it is an isolated thing, it has no meaning at all in life and reality. Your nightmares don't mean anything to me any more than my nightmares would mean anything to you. Pretty easy to understand. But as a result of our turning our attention and the power of our mind towards those nightmares, they seem very real to us, and we wind up becoming imprisoned by them. And so when we refer to the idea of your private world, you can think of it as many, this is a abstract representation of everybody walking around in their own imaginary private nightmare of a world with their own fears for which they are very aware of, but no one else is really connected to them in that process. The reason why we talk about these fears in such details is because we want you to recognize them when they occur in your own mind and realize that's what fear looks like. Julie?
Each one peoples his world with figures from his individual past, and it is because of this that private worlds do differ. Yet the figures that he sees were never real, for they are made up of only his reactions to his brothers and do not include their reactions to him. Therefore, he does not see he made them, and that they are not whole. For these figures have no witnesses, being perceived in one separate mind only.
Mhm. So we encountered this in the previous session where we are talking about representations of another person that are in your memory that are take the form of a shadowy figure. It's not the real person and it's not their full attributes, but it's just the things that you have perceived and learned about them, all of your judgments, your I'm sorry, what's the words I'm looking for? Your grievances, your resentments, all of that might be populated as a part of what you see that person as. And so the Course refers to them as shadowy figures from your past. They exist only in your private world. And if you need more evidence that we do practice this craziness, think of it in these terms that if you have a disagreement with another person, and maybe later on you're ruminating about that, you're playing it over in your mind, what happened, what the Course says is those replays are made up only of your reactions to the other person and do not include at all their reactions to you. For in other words, it's a one-sided, it's not even, it's so incomplete and fragmented. This is why it's a judgment. It's choosing to recall only the things that you've decided are worth recalling. And so, again, this is just saying that illusions are hardly a valid guide to your present moment, and certainly not a valid guide to your relations to other people. Okay.
It is though these strange and shadowy figures that the insane relate to their insane world. It is through. It is through these strange and shadowy figures that the insane relate to their insane world. For they see only those who remind them of these images, and it is to them that they relate. Thus do they communicate with those who are not there, and it is they who answer them, and no one hears their answer save him who called upon them, and he alone believes they answered him. Projection makes perception, and you cannot see beyond it. Again and again have you attacked your brother, because you saw in him a shadow figure in your private world. And thus it is, you must attack yourself first, for what you attack is not in others. It's only reality in your own mind. And by attacking others, you are literally attacking what is not there.
So it is necessary that we look closely into this dark phenomena of how we represent other people in our mind so that we can become free. It's for the purpose not of continuing to repeat this, but to recognize that this is not what we want and that the Holy Spirit's gift is much more preferable. So we're talking about these shadowy figures in our mind. And the implication here is that we're relating to others through our judgments, our perceptions of their shadow self. For in other words, we're not encountering the person as they are in the living present moment, which we'll get to later, but instead we're reflecting backwards on judgments we've already made. Again, resentments, grievances, guilt that we've already accumulated, and using that as the mechanism of relating to others. You can see how this would really mess up relationships. And we're not just talking about romantic relationships, we mean within families, within neighborhoods and communities, all manner of relationships. If you're relating to another person through your resentments, my goodness, that's starting off on the wrong foot. And so the law of perception is that these, what you, well, the fundamental law is that thoughts leave not the mind that thought them. They remain in your mind, but are then projected outward onto the other person as if they were your thought about them. And so your projections make your perception of another person, and you are locked in to your own projection. You cannot, it seems real to the mind that projects outward. And when it's done in terms of the shadow figures, those projections are done with a degree of resentment and agitation. And so it results in a mild, it can take many forms, but it's really an attack upon the other person. It's really denigrating the light within them, and instead projecting your own shadow out onto them. If there's anybody that doesn't understand what we're saying here, please pause me, because this is important, because this projecting of our own shadow figures out onto others must stop if we're to heal. We can't walk in the light and at the same time be relating to people by projecting our shadows onto them. And what is not at all obvious, all these mechanisms of the ego have a double layer to them. So you can catch yourself projecting the shadow outwards onto others. What you probably don't realize is that when you do that, you're denigrating yourself. Why? Because you're using your moment to project darkness outward. And the darkness comes from your own shadow figure that you carry around. And so, and that part is really deeper in the unconscious mind and not well understood. But when you practice this program, you come to realize that other people are mirrors of yourself. Okay, so we can't possibly heal and perpetuate those activities of mind. And by the way, you don't have to be in the same room with the person. You can be sitting all by yourself and recall the person that you have a grievance with and ruminate all that. You can do all this activity just within your own dark reflections of grievances and hurts and pains. They called it the other day a spot of pain in the mind. So we need to find a way out.
The delusional can be very destructive, for they do not recognize they have condemned themselves. They do not wish to die, yet they will not let condemnation go. And so they separate into their private worlds, where everything is disordered, and where what is within appears to be without. Yet what is within they do not see, for the reality of their brothers they cannot recognize. You have but two emotions, yet in your private world you react to each of them as though it were the other. For love cannot abide in a world apart, where when it comes it is not recognized. If you see your own hatred as your brother, you are not seeing him. Everyone draws nigh unto what he loves, and recoils from what he fears. And you react with fear to love, and draw away from it. Yet fear attracts you, and believing it is love, you call it to yourself. Your private world is filled with figures of fear you have invited into it, and all the love your brothers offer you, you do not see.
Mhm. So as Julie was reading, part of me really reacted to a statement, and ouch. If you see your own hatred as your brother, now this is not something that most of us would welcome or even wish to recognize. But if it's hidden in the corners of your subconscious, you certainly don't want it to remain there. And so, what do we mean by hatred? Well, we elaborated on how that looks just a moment ago, carrying around judgments and guilt and desire for revenge, perhaps, about somebody else, and then you replay all that about them again and again and project that shadow outward onto them, thinking the ego thinks that if you project those thoughts, they're no longer in your mind, they're on the other person. But what we know is that thoughts remain with the mind that thought them. When you project something outward, you're reinforcing that thought in your mind. And so projecting your shadows, your guilt, your spots of pain onto other people, regardless of what they may have done, this is not really about them. This is about the person that chooses to heal. Well, that's your own hatred, seeing your own hatred as your brother. And as we said, it's actually a reflection of what's being carried around within the shadows of your own subconscious. And so this is all clearly this is what we call sickness in the Course of Miracles, not biological, but mental sickness. And it results in one of the strangest reversals of all, and that is you react to each emotion as though it were the other, where you fear to love, but yet you willingly accept you fear to love and you love to fear. You willingly accept these fearful thoughts that result in the mind that keeps stuck in the past. You accept that behavior as okay, as some kind of normal, but the most loving and light filled innocence of holy encounters are viewed as something outside of us to keep away of. This is the ego's reaction, obviously, fear to love and love to fear. So that's a reversal. This whole course is about reversing that confusion. And the confusion's all in the mind, not in the spirit or not in the body.
As you look with open eyes upon your world, it must occur to you that you have withdrawn into insanity. You see what is not there, and you hear what makes no sound. Your manifestations of emotions are the opposite of what the emotions are. You communicate with no one, and you are as isolated from reality as if you were alone in all the universe. In your madness, you overlook reality completely, and you see only your own split mind everywhere you look. God calls you, and you do not hear, for you are preoccupied with your own voice. And the vision of Christ is not in your sight, for you look upon yourself alone.
I've often said that it takes courage, moral courage, spiritual courage, psychological courage to walk this path because a coward would never be willing to acknowledge, to admit about the insanity that goes on within the mind and say, yes, I know of that experience myself. A coward would never wish to acknowledge madness and thus would protect it by keeping it and hidden from your consciousness, and that results in perpetuating the sickness. It takes a degree of courage to admit that we've given our power away to this insanity. And that very same courage that can admit is also the courage that can take back your power and give it to the light instead. So everything that we need to heal is ours. It's already been demonstrated that we have the ability to give the power of our mind to whatever we choose. And we're just suggesting that in the past we've made poor choices and that there's a better choice available to us now. So the issue here is about wanting to heal, the desire to heal above all else. I want to heal, to see your own split mind and admit to that and recognize that God has an answer. He didn't set us up for this. We did it to ourselves. So God is calling us, but as long as we keep replaying those messages that we've formulated through guilt and judgment, resentments, etc., then we'll remain preoccupied with our own voice. Um, by the way, this idea we're expressing right here that there's a voice for God and there's our own voice and becoming preoccupied with our own, that continues along, but it diminishes in proportion so that, so to speak, when before you begin the spiritual path, the only thing you have is your own voice. Some people have a voice of God that well, I don't want to go in. The only thing that you listen to is your own voice. And over time, the voice of the ego diminishes, and we learn to turn away from it and turn towards the higher voice, the voice of the Holy Spirit within us. We learn to listen, but we go from not hearing to listening. And then the final lesson that we learn is where there's only one voice that we hear. There's no longer the voice that we made, our ego voice. There's only the voice for life and love.
Little child, would you offer this to your father? For if you offer it to yourself, you are offering it to him, and he will not return it, for it is unworthy of you because it is unworthy of him. Yet he would release you from it and set you free. His sane answer tells you what you have offered yourself is not true, but his offering to you has never changed. You who know not what you do can learn what insanity is and look beyond it. It is given you to learn how to deny insanity and come forth from your private world in peace. You will see all that you denied in your brothers, because you denied it in yourself. For you will love them, and by drawing nigh unto them, you will draw them to yourself, perceiving them as witnesses to the reality you share with God. I am with them as I am with you, and we will draw them from their private worlds. For as we are united, so would we unite with them. The Father welcomes all of us in gladness, and gladness is what we should offer Him. For every Son of God is given you to whom God gave Himself, and it is God whom you must offer them to recognize His gift to you.
So, one of the ways that we learn in the course is to take the defense mechanisms that the ego has developed to remain in control. And those mechanisms, the Holy Spirit reinterprets them, and we learn how to use the reinterpretation. So the defense mechanism I'm thinking about here is the use of denial. And many of you recognize already how a person can use denial to keep the truth away. Well, in the Holy Spirit's interpretation, we reverse the use of denial to deny what is false. You learn how to deny insanity. And that allows you to gladly walk out of the prison cell we call your private world. For in other words, it's a gentle calling to let go of the familiar state of shadow figures in your private world. It's an invitation call to come out. But to do so, you have to decide yourself to let go. This is the undoing of the ego. And when we do that, we will realize that all along there was this light that we carry and that everyone carries. And will no longer be in denial of that light, but instead be in acceptance of that light in ourselves and others. And that light will cause us to love them. And this is the bridge. So, going back to what we said before about the prison of the past, we need a bridge to get into the present. And that bridge is always of the form of saying no to what the ego offered. This is deny the insanity. And part two of that is to say yes to the light, yes to what the Holy Spirit offers, yes to the truth that we all have the light within them. And then we perceive others as evidences or witnesses to the reality we share. And so this is the switch here from a preoccupation with our own private thoughts into a joining with others in a common message of light and life and love. And when you do that, it invokes a set of spiritual principles which are beyond our understanding at this time, but have a tremendous spiritual potency, spiritual power to them to reverse the direction of your life in terms of pull you out of insanity and into a world of peace. So what is our part? We must be willing to say no to the insanity and to gladly accept the gift that is given us of the light and love that is part of our true nature. If we do that much, Holy Spirit will cover all the rest of the territory. When we say we do that much, we really have to do it every day throughout the day. That, in other words, it's not a part-time, half-hearted choice. It's a wholehearted willingness, totally willing to stand and to live in the light instead of continuing to live in the shadows of a private world.
Vision depends on light. You cannot see in darkness. Yet in darkness, in the private world of sleep, you see in dreams, although your eyes are closed. And it is here that what you see you made. But let the darkness go, and all you made you will no longer see, for sight of it depends upon denying vision. Yet from denying vision, it does not follow you. Yet from denying vision, it does not follow you cannot see. But this is what denial does. For by it you accept insanity, believing you can make a private world and rule your perception. Yet for this, light must be excluded. Dreams disappear when light has come and you can see.
Mhm. So I will assume that you follow what's been said up till now, more or less, maybe not 100%. What is right here in front of us then becomes essential because we're looking to pivot out of the darkness and into the light. And that pivot is the most important choice that we can make. So we want to understand what it's saying here. And a moment ago, we were talking about how denial can be used in the hands of the ego, but it also can be reinterpreted in the light of the Holy Spirit. So when we're confused, we wind up denying vision. I think maybe I have to take a step back and reintroduce the idea of vision because we're talking about light and seeing the light in our brothers, where it's a new type of perception. It doesn't change your eyeballs and your physical vision, but it very much changes the light that is within you, your recognition of the light within you, and thus it changes what you project outward in onto others in the world. And so in the confused state, we wind up denying vision. In the healed state, we wind up denying insanity and accepting vision. So we accept vision and deny accept. There's a duplicity here. You can get it wrong, or you can follow the Holy Spirit's use of denial, which completely reverses the four quadrants that are involved here. And so we go, the issue here is what is vision? Well, vision depends on the light. And when we say light, let's be clear. We mean clarity of understanding in your mind of what the nature of love and life is. going from a befuddled, confused, closed minded view regarding holy principles to learning to understand and appreciate and and see clearly, spiritual vision here, see clearly how these principles can operate in your own life and in the life of those around you to bring healing to your relationships, clarity, vision. So the vision depends on your having some understanding in a clear mind with respect to these things. A dulled out, clueless state of mind does not foster vision. Clarity does. Um, and so we'll go on. We're going to talk, the course will discuss extensively this gift of spiritual vision, for it is the experience that you'll use on a regular basis that will allow you to rise up above all the grievances and littleness of the world and to stay above the cloud line. You know how when I'm sure you've been in a plane where the plane was just above, flying above the cloud line. It was crystal clear above the cloud line, but below that, it's all foggy. Well, your mind can operate on a higher plane as well. And that plane requires what we're talking about: spiritual vision, spiritual light, clarity, and understanding. So we will discuss that extensively going forward.
Do not seek vision through your eyes, for you made your way of seeing that you might see in the darkness, and in this you are deceived. Beyond this darkness, and yet still within you, is the vision of Christ, who looks on all in light. Your vision comes from fear, as his from love, and he sees for you as your witness to the real world. He is the Holy Spirit's manifestation, looking always on the real world and calling forth its witnesses and drawing them to you. He loves what he sees within you, and he would extend it, and he will not return unto the Father until he has extended your perception even unto him. And their perception is no more, for he has returned you to the Father with him.
So when we discuss this vision, it's important to remember this is not something you have to put together, that you're responsible for fabricating some new understanding of life and the world, and the weight is on your shoulders to be able to capable of doing that. That's not, the vision is a gift. It's something that is already deeply within you, covered over by the obstacles to awareness, the obstacles of grievances and resentments and condemnations and preoccupation with past fears, etc., are stand in the way of that vision coming forth and being appearing in your mind on a regular basis. But once those fears are denied and let go, and we've undone the ego, then there are no obstacles in the way. And the vision is a natural state. It's your healed state. Your quote, normal state is to be happy, to see the light, to know your true self, your true nature, and to recognize that others are in this with you is normal and natural. And so the vision, again, Christ sees for you and is your witness to the real world. And so what we're really saying is you don't need to do this, but you do need to accept the truth about these gifts that are given you. And you do need to choose to leave your own private world where you experience your nightmares in your own mind all by yourself. And for that, we have this session that we usually do at the beginning of the year called the Freedom of Fear, that specifically focuses on all the activity of the ego that we have to identify, be willing to discontinue, to divest ourselves of.
You have but two emotions, and one you made, and one was given you. Each is a way of seeing, and different worlds arise from their different sights. See through the vision that is given you, for through Christ's vision he beholds himself. And seeing what he is, he knows his Father. Beyond your darkest dreams, he sees God's guiltless Son within you, shining in perfect radiance that is undimmed by your dreams. And this you will see as you look with him, for his vision is his gift of love to you, given him of the Father for you. The Holy Spirit is the light in which Christ stands revealed, and all who would behold him can see him, for they have asked for light. Nor will they see him alone, for he is no more alone than they are. Because they saw the Son, they have risen in him to the Father. And all this will they understand, because they looked within and saw beyond the darkness the Christ in them, and recognized him. In the insanity of his vision,
Uh,
they looked
One more time.
in the sanity of his vision, they looked upon themselves with love, seeing themselves as the Holy Spirit sees them. And with this vision of truth in them came all the beauty of the world to shine upon them.
Hmm. Julie, I'm sorry for interrupting you there, because I know many times you correct yourself. You caught it. It's just that one just jumped right at me there. I know you understand. Thank you. And thank you for all your service to the group. Actually, your reading is outstanding. So thank you so much for being so clear, because it makes it so much easier when you read it as you do for all of us to take it in, because there's a lot here. There's a lot of English words here that have to be, as you've illustrated on a few things, the emphasis has to be just right, or else the sentence is not easy to understand. So thank you for all that you do. I found this statement really stays with me because getting a understanding of the Holy Spirit, I have to say that I'm not sure I really have a clear understanding of the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit doesn't take a body and live on a planet and have a story to tell, or any of those things that we might, try to connect with as humans. Has none of that. And so, but what is the Holy Spirit? We don't really know anything about her past or her activities, other than that she's what the Course tells us. And it tells us here that the Holy Spirit is the light. And we kind of knew that, but this makes it more clear, I think, because remember, vision requires light. And so, light, I think of it as being there, this very diffuse light that fills the entire space, it fills everywhere, it dissipates all darkness. And yet it's uniform. It doesn't have all these nuances to it. It's just pure light. And in that light, we're able to understand the living Christ more clearly. It's revealed. Christ stands revealed. We read earlier in this chapter that it's at the altar to the Creator that the light of the Holy Spirit brings us to that altar, and there we see Christ as he is, free of all the things we might have already acquired in our thoughts about the Christ. And so um, it's Christ vision that brings us sanity and allows us to see clearly and look upon our true nature, our true eternal self, which is love, and see others in that light as well. And so this is really just the beginning of the story here, even though it's the end of this section. This is just the beginning of the story because we said that this switch from a private world of darkness into a world of light and of love, that's the bridge that is necessary to escape out of the ancient prison. And so when we get together next time, we will be reading the section that puts a cap or a bow on these three sections. It's called Finding the Present. And it makes it, if it wasn't clear, and I know there's a lot to all this, then that section should make it crystal clear. We'll be meeting in our live session next Saturday to do that. But know that there's always more to share. Um, and that, so this, I really like this image here because it reminds me of each one of us having our own world. The many world theories actually appears in physics with a different meaning than here. Here, it's a private world. It's a world where my own ego creations are the only ones that live. And there seems to be these other shadow figures around, but they are of my own making. And therefore, insanity believes that you can rule. You are the ruler of your own perceptions. And this is what we must be willing to acknowledge and to let go of and to become free of. So that's as far as we're going to go in this section. There's a lot to this. I do recommend that you review some of the highlights on your own and let it seep in deeper because the meaning behind all these divine ideals of healing are not always evident on the first pass. They certainly haven't been for me. And so be gentle with yourself that's learning these and spend a few minutes with each concept that does come to you and let it seep in have a period of listening and learning, and let the Holy Spirit guide you. I want to thank you all for your courage to face the insanity in the private world and your willingness to choose again, to choose differently. Thank you all for your presence here. Julie, thank you for your reading. Thank you all, and look forward to connecting again real soon. Remember, the present moment is where your salvation is found. Namaste.
Thank you.
Annika, thank you, Julie.
Namaste.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thanks, Jonica. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Beautiful reading. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Beautiful.
Rest well, everyone.